Introducing Minor Wisdom Quintet.
1, 2, a skidadidoo.
Minor Wisdom.
Hey, this week is Josh Harriman. Josh Harriman is up north side, North Texas. And he's even from like northern Texas, from the Lubbock area too. You'll hear him talk about that. But anyway, Josh was nice enough to come on the podcast. He's been quite busy. He's quite a successful dude. Some of you know who he is, some of you don't. If you're on the 6A level, you definitely know Josh Harriman. If you're not on the 6A level, you might know him, but you haven't experienced his work if you don't watch UIL at the state level, because dude, like, just has the secret formula, has the secret sauce, and he won't tell anybody else how to get to state. So Josh was a very fun interview for me. We are eerily similar in how we think about things, and it was one of those like Frozen moments where we finished each other's sandwiches, and it was kind of fun to get to chat with him. And I'd never really talked to him. I honestly couldn't have pointed him out of a crowd. Now I can. But it was really great to talk to Josh and to get to know him. The only time I knew Josh, other than the UIL world, is a director in our district. I will not name the school or the name of the director, but a guy that now works with Josh, oddly his name is Josh, was swept away from the school that I am so near and dear to in my district, and that's the only time I've ever heard anything outside of One Act Play regarding Josh Harriman. But it was so fun to catch up with him. He did tease at the beginning of this thing that his wife might join. His wife directs with him. She's not a full-time high school theater director. She's in the education world as a counselor, but she is a theater person, and she never came in. She did, I think, at one point you hear her in the background chime in with something, but she never did come in and chat. But at some point, gonna have to have her on, maybe on the second version of Theater Widows, because she's kind of like that Amy Unroe-ish type person as far as she knows theater, but isn't completely engulfed in that world as a full-time, as her full-time job. So it was a lot of fun. I got to be a contest manager this week for a One Act Play contest that ended up turning into a clinic, more so, and a festival, if you will, more so a festival, because we had adjudicators show up and we had timekeepers and we kept all of the paperwork and did all that work and did everything that you're supposed to with a contest. But we knew the schools that were advancing because there were only 3 schools competing. So they all advanced and they all went on. So it was more laxed. It was more relaxed. I don't think all the schools told their students that this is what was happening, but it became a more relaxed environment, especially for those directors, which was kind of nice. Now, I'm going to play a little devil's advocate for a second. And I know, according to some people, that I start on Facebook. I think I mentioned that last week. Not trying to start anything with what I'm about to talk about, but I want to play a little devil's advocate. There was one show that they had just changed their show. They had just changed an actor, and it was quite apparent. And they went up a few times. A few of the actors forgot lines. They dropped lines. To a couple of actors' credits, they continued and they picked it up and they figured it out and they went on. And the show was not bad. And in 2 weeks, when they compete again, it's going to be great. And it's a really well done show. It's a really pretty show. It just, the actors who kind of just were thrown into the parts, if you will, because at last minute some things changed, as they do with this time that we're in. The actors weren't prepared. Now here's a story I got to tell about myself from many years ago that you know so well. It started way back in history with that Dionysus Theater and me. So I was an actor for Dionysus Theater. I also did their lights many years ago. Debbie Nowinski started this theater. It was an inclusion theater. It involved able-bodied and handicapped actors. Everybody had to audition for all the parts. You were up against somebody that was blind, or is blind, I guess. They still are. And you would go up against somebody that was deaf. You would go up against somebody that has a quadriplegic actor that was in it that was amazing. You had just all kinds of different people. Anybody who wanted to audition could audition. You were all held to the same standards, though, which I thought was great. I got a part. I was the lead in a musical. It was, for those of you that don't know, last year was the first time I'd ever been in a show that wasn't a musical. So yes, I can sing well. But anyway, I was in the show, and we were performing for an audience of handicapped students of all different types. We had, kids that just couldn't walk for some reason or another. You had blind students that were in there, deaf students that were in there, but you also had a few that had Tourette's. And so I'm singing my song, one of my big moments in the show, and a student has an episode. And their episode lasted for a while, and it got to me. It affected me. It made me forget my lyrics. It made me forget the song. I tried to hum through it, live band, all of that's happening. And it was a mess, and it has stuck with me to this day. This was 15 years ago or so, and I remember it very well, to the point where it was the last time I'd ever done a musical. It was the last time I'd ever done a musical 15 years ago. Now, that could be that I just suck now with age, or it could be that it was traumatic to me. It's something that's in my brain. It has made it hard for me to get over. And I know that's a weakness on my part, and I should get over it. But here's where I'm going. If these kids that went up today and forgot their lines and forgot their moments, are they going back to their school happy about the fact that they performed their you know what's off, even though they were met with so many roadblocks, so many pieces of red tape? Or are they going back to their school upset because they let their friends down and their director down? This is, again, I'm not saying they did. I'm saying that's how they feel. Are they doing that? Which one is it? And I hope it's the former and not the latter. I hope that they're thinking, I still killed it out there, because they did. And the adjudicator that gave them a critique, I know that, all adjudicators are trained to be very positive and give them constructive criticism and things like that. So I'm sure they felt good after that. Plus, they're advancing. They know they have the time to work on the show now. So I hope that they feel good about it. But what if they don't? And what if this is traumatic to them? And this is the time we're in. Now, I know that this could happen at any time, any year, any situation. Students are taken out for grades or for any number of reasons. Parents suck, whatever. But this year is part of the reason why I was so against competing, because this could be happening more often than not. Students are being replaced, shows are being changed. This is happening. I know it's happening because I'm a contest manager and I'm seeing this stuff, and you guys are talking about it on Facebook. So this is part of why. Why can't we just do the shows on our own time? It's whatever. According to some, I'm a shit starter on Facebook. Maybe I'm a shit starter on my own podcast too. But I just feel like if it is the traumatic side of things, we could be avoiding it. And I'm a proactive person, not a reactive person. Have always been. Enough about that. Enough about soapbox. Before I get to the interview with Josh, I want to mention one cool thing that happened. I happened to say to one of my online students, who is a phenomenal artist, one of the best I've ever taught in my 11 years in the classroom, if you will. I jokingly told this kid, "Hey man, why don't you make me a new logo for my podcast?" And I get an email from him a couple days ago. He's like, "I know you were probably joking, but I made you a new logo." And he created a new logo for me. I haven't met this kid in person. I've never, I don't know how tall he is. He doesn't look very tall, but I don't know how tall he is. I don't know anything about him other than what I see on the screen. Now, he's one that always turns his camera on. He's one that is making 100 in my class, which today is crazy. But so I know he's a good student. He's a good kid. He was raised well. He's doing well. but I don't know him. He's not like one of my kids, you know what I mean? So it was so cool that he took the time to do that. I will be posting that online. I'm gonna add some color to it. He did a black and white version intentionally, according to him, and he knows that I'm gonna change it with color, but I'm not gonna change the drawing at all. So it's really cool. I just think it's really neat that that happened. I love, you know, I complain a lot, but I really love education and teaching for those types of moments because those kids don't know how much effect they have on us, just as we don't know how much effect we have on them until they tell us. But anyway, I want you guys to enjoy this interview with Mr. Josh Harriman. Just two Texans talking shop, bruh.
When I was in high school, I went to a place called Seminole High School. And my junior year, I got put in a theater class. And it was, I needed another elective, and that class had I guess, an opening, and I jumped in. Um, I didn't intend to do any theater, but I had this teacher named Tal, and Talistraco, and there's even a camp, Tal's Camp, named after him. But he was a massive, big influence on my life. When uh, when I was in that class, he cast me in Julius Caesar, and I had one line. I came out and gave this note to Brutus, and I remember when I walked off stage, he came around the corner and acted like I scored like 7 touchdowns. Like it was the greatest, one line delivery in the world. Um, I remember that show he ended up wanting to take to what at that time was ETA, and presented there. And when I found out we were doing that, I really wanted to go, but the dates conflicted with a basketball game that I had. And he took me out in the hall, and I remember talking to him, and he was acting like the show can't go on without me. And I bought it up. And he ended up buying a plane ticket so I could fly down there and meet them and then be back for the game. But that was the kind of guy Tal was. He made you believe in yourself. He believed so much in you that you started just believing in yourself. And that's how I got in theater. I wasn't a theater major, I was a business major. And when I graduated from college, I didn't really have a great plan as to what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to do entry-level sales, and that's kind of was the job market at that time, it seemed like. And joined the National Guard. And after that, I guess it's about 8 months of boot camp, and then the school that I went to there at Sam Houston, I came back and still was clueless as to what to do. And Tal came around again, called me up and said, "Hey, there is a job in Rogers, Texas, theater job, and you should apply." And it just happened to be that my former English teacher was the principal there at Rogers at that time, Chip Chappell, another person who believed in you so much that you started believing in yourself. So I applied. I don't know that they had any other applicants, so I think I was the guy. It was a great program. A guy named Scott Tipton had been directing there prior to me going, and I think they had won 2 state championships, maybe back to back, right before the year that I came in and knew nothing about what I was doing. So anyway, I guess I ended up taking the job and going. It was going to be like a 1-year deal. And the spring semester of that year, one act started. I also did a spring show, Greater Tuna, with a bunch of freshmen who had gotten kicked out of athletics that year. And so they didn't really have anything to do. Actually, one of them was Aaron Martin, who's now does AM Designs, and
You're wearing his
does
hat.
a lot of, what's that?
You're wearing his hat right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Big fan of Aaron. Big
Yeah.
fan of his wife Kirsten. Big fan of AM Designs. They're awesome. But his freshman year, he was a part of a freshman group that had gotten kicked out of athletics, and we did a show. We did Greater Tuna with them, and that and meeting Abby out there, my wife, convinced me to stay another year, and that extra year has turned into, I think it's year 14, 15, something like that. It goes, it's crazy how fast it goes. Uh, but that's how I got into it. Just a teacher that uh, believed in me, and so I just kind of followed that path.
And so,
And I think
we'll
it's part
go.
of why we're probably all here.
Yeah. So, and did you know the legend of Tal like as you were a student of his? Was
The
it
first
building?
I remember the first time I saw him, I was at a table with Chip Chappell, and he was I was doing debate at that time
Yeah.
as a extracurricular, and he was going over this case, and Tao came in, and he was furious, and I can't remember what it was, but he was just just really loud. We're in the library, everybody in the library staring at him. He seemed to get louder as more people were looking at him.
Right.
Chapel was great with him. He was always a little bit more of a calming, presence. And Tal stormed off, and Mr. Chapel looked at me and said, "That's the most brilliant human alive, right there." And so it stuck in my head
Right.
because Mr. Chapel had said that. So every time I, saw him after that, I thought, well, Mr. Chapel thinks this guy's the most brilliant human alive.
Yeah.
So in doing shows, and I only did a couple with Talbot, but I feel like I learned more in those few shows than
Right.
much as I've learned, anywhere. He was absolutely brilliant.
Did you go to his camp at all?
I didn't.
Okay.
That camp ended up starting later on, probably around the time I was first starting to
Okay.
teach.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Because I mean, like people, I'm good friends with Stewart as,
oh yeah, yeah.
and so
Mhm.
he swears by that camp. So, that you can't get in the way of him when he's at that camp, or like there's nothing that can take him away from that, I guess, week or couple of weeks or whatever it is,
Yes,
that he's
yes.
in
That's
attendance.
one that I try to make. I try to go down and watch their shows every
Yeah,
every summer that they do. They're great, and we've sent kids to that camp, and
yeah,
I feel like they come back learning so much from the directors there, the other kids.
right,
It's a awesome camp, really
right.
cool.
And so what's your, I mean, I know a little bit of your history with one act play only because you have made it difficult for a school in my district to win state. So what is your history as an educator with one act play?
With one act, my wife and I have directed together pretty much every year we've
Yeah,
done this, and I did 2 years without Abby, and those 2 years we got to area, and then we next year we got to region, and then with Abby we've done I guess 12 one acts, and we've had 6 state championships, and then 3 other appearances. I think we had a second place
yeah,
one of those, and then few best actors
yeah.
or actresses on some of those shows too.
What do you think it is? I mean, like what is it that you're doing right? What's the secret sauce that you're putting on your shows that other people are kind of missing out? Unless you don't want to say it, because then you may.
No, I think I'm doing what you're doing right now. I think that when I go to TXETA
Yeah,
or Taos Camp, I ask as many questions as
right.
I can and talk to as many people as I can. And literally anybody who will sit there and tell me what they're doing, I'll
Sure.
talk to.
Yeah,
Um, I've interned and paid to go to all those camps and follow those directors around
right.
and watch them direct. And I always feel like I'll stay on Google, like the search engine, a couple more clicks than most people.
Right.
So just, researching just a little bit longer. Um, and that's just asking questions. Probably
Right.
that's as much as anything.
Do
Um,
do you have a style of play that you stay away from?
I haven't done a comedy for one act,
Okay.
even though I like them a lot. I saw,
Right.
I've seen Billy Dragoo's, shoot, I can't remember what it was. I've seen a couple of comedies he's
Epic
done.
Proportions, was that Billy's? Or
Oh man, I saw that
yeah,
one.
but that
I
one
don't
was
remember
good.
who did it, but
Yeah.
it was brilliant. It was
Yeah.
great. I've seen, the government inspectors that have
Yeah.
come through. I think they're amazing. But that's what genre that's makes me a little nervous. You know,
Right.
them and
Do you
Paul.
do it? Do you do it on campus, like
Oh yeah,
yeah? Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
We'll do comedies in the fall. We'll
Yeah.
even do them in the spring, as a sideshow, or even musical comedies.
Right.
Love doing them, but I do feel a little intimidated by them. I feel
Right.
uh like, I guess, loss we all
Right.
kind of relate to in the same way, but humor, we all have different versions of what we think is funny.
Sure.
My daughter thinks it's funny when people fart. That's hilarious to
Yeah.
her.
Right.
Um,
Wait,
I think
am I
it's
not
funny.
supposed to think that too? Is that?
Yeah, like dodgeball is funny, when
Yeah.
they're throwing wrenches at people's head.
Yeah.
I think that's
Right.
hilarious. And then other people think that's juvenile and
Yeah.
childish. So it's just one of those that I hadn't really jumped in quite as much on those.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. My wife and I have a completely different taste in movies. Like my favorite movie of all time is Dumb and Dumber, and
It's the
yeah,
best.
and
It's the best. Yes,
she
yes.
thinks, she's like, come on, it's potty humor, and I've
It's
I've I've started to kind of get her to come around to Impractical Jokers a little bit,
Mhm.
because I watched, and now my oldest daughter watches it with me, and it's not
Uh,
appropriate. I don't recommend that for anybody, but that's just bad parenting. But my wife is like
or it's
this.
good education. I don't know.
Yeah, I know exactly. So I also think comedy, because I've done a couple comedies now for one act play, and have been
Uh-huh.
highly unsuccessful. But I think part of the difficult of comedy is you have to spend time to tell the joke, sometimes, and you don't have that time.
You're
Yeah.
Man. I've never thought about that or put that into words, but you're completely right.
Yeah.
You got to set the joke up, and also when we're trying to find those through lines, a lot
Yeah.
of the humor gets cut,
Yeah.
and then it's hot, like the funny moments are gone.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. There's
you're
no build
totally
up
right.
to it. Yeah.
Mhm.
I can come out on stage and kill somebody and you get it. Like, like there's
Exactly.
drama. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Don't need a
So,
whole lot of words for that, and you can
no.
just set it up, do it. It's got
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
works well in one act.
Anyway, that's good. So you had a similar path. I didn't stick with it than I did, because when I went to UH, I started in the business world. I wanted to get my business degree, because I wanted to open a theater and run a theater. It proved to be too much math, and so so you did business. Has that helped you as an educator? Run a department and manage the money and the financials and getting rights and all that kind of stuff.
Our administration would say no. I do, I
Yeah.
do think I think it's a very similar process of running a business. I remember when I first met Tim Unrow, who is out there in y'all's area.
Yeah.
Man, he's another one. I picked his brain a lot, and he came from a business world, and
Yeah.
he made so many analogies to it's just like running a small business. And
Yeah.
I thought, man, he's right. And remember that when I was going through college, Good to Great was a real popular book that all the business majors were reading.
Yeah.
It talked about that, like you're driving a bus and you just got to know, like, who do you want, who's the person that's going to sit, near the emergency exit that's going
Yeah.
to help people get out, who's going to sit in the front that's going to be, helping people first off, who's going to sit in the back that's going to make sure that back door's open, like
Yeah.
you just have to make sure you have the right people in the right places. And I think that is important in casting a show. And our best years are when we don't do a whole lot of work and the kids are uh, really making the choices themselves,
Right.
and the pieces are all in the right places. I feel like um, Saturday we were all late to rehearsal. We tend to run late, but when we walked in, I recorded our rehearsal because they were just up there blocking and moving on without us. Not that they're leaving
Yeah.
us, but it was awesome because they had taken ownership and were just moving on with the show. And I think that's always when it's best,
Right.
and when it works the best. And
What do you fancy yourself? A director, acting director, or more of a designer, or like how do you what would
um,
you label yourself?
man, I don't know. I'm a recruiter. That's
Okay.
that's honestly that's what I
Yeah.
would say. My wife is really artistic, and
Right.
she's definitely a designer. Um, and then I feel like walk the halls and eat in the
You're
cafeteria
like the
and
casting director. Yeah.
grab kids that I think will be good. And
Yeah.
that's probably the I don't know, my best strength is just
That's funny.
pulling
Yeah,
kids.
yeah. We talked off air before, and you said something about your coaches called you Harriman, and my students call me coach all the time. Now, not necessarily the students like my after school kids, but my theater one students, they call me coach, and then they stop and they're like, never mind, you're not a coach, and I was like, well, I am in a way, I fancy
Yes,
myself,
yes.
yeah, more of a coach than a director, only because of the same reason. I'm teaching you how to be better at being a human, which in turn might translate to the stage. And that's always I've been more philosophical than I have been artistic when it comes to theater for some reason, and I don't know why,
Uh,
but yeah,
I totally agree with you, and I feel like uh, football and band. Since I've moved, we're kind of in a similar hallway where we see a lot of football players, a lot of
yeah,
band students, and watching them, the way they would run the rehearsals and everything. I've learned so much and thought, man, this is how we need to do theater in so many ways. They're very, very product oriented. They're always moving towards a product, and they're
right,
always they have student leaders teaching other students. You have a middle linebacker captain, you have a quarterback captain, you have,
yeah,
in band, you have your trumpet, your first chair trumpet who's like leading all the trumpets, and they just kind of lead each other until they come together. And
yeah,
and that's been something that we really tried to take on. Um, uh, I guess in the last 5, 6 years is like that kids are going to do the work.
right,
This person's, you're in charge of whatever. You're the team captain on
right.
this. You're team captain of this other thing. And when we come together, we got to put all these pieces together. But we have lots of student leaders
Yeah.
doing all those
Now,
things.
did you get any of that when you were a student? Because you mentioned you played basketball.
Um,
Did you play other sports? And
I played football up to my freshman year, and then I
okay,
was going to be Michael Jordan was, at that point, like that's what I was going to focus only on that.
John
Um,
Stockton, Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, John Stock. Yes, yes. With both of them, I
Yeah.
realized that slowly I wasn't fast or quick, or I
Okay.
really couldn't jump.
Yeah.
So the dreams of becoming John Stockton and
Yeah.
Michael Jordan fell away. But man, I do feel like I learned so much in sports. And I think it's cool that your students call you coach. One of the, for us, one of the best teachers we have in our theater at Keller High. He's a tech theater, and everybody calls him Coach Ketchum,
Yeah.
Coach. But he's got that mindset of like, we're gonna all work together as leaders, as followers, and come together, and our project's gonna be better together. So
Yeah.
uh, love that.
Did
Yeah.
did you have you brought that world? And I know you just mentioned that you've brought it from like you observing as an educator, but as
Mhm.
somebody that experienced as a student, the athletics world, have you brought some of that, adopted some of that into your own teaching philosophy or directing philosophy?
I feel like that
Yeah.
because we're very, very project oriented. We turn in grades because that's required by the
Sure.
school, but every student knows that it doesn't like we're putting them in 30 minutes before they're due.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and it doesn't really mean a whole lot. And I've always had trouble with grades because like if me and you were both casting a show, we'd probably cast it differently.
Right.
So it's hard for me to like really process that I give this student a 95 and this one a 90
Right.
when you would come in and maybe switch it around and we're both right.
Right.
Um, and so really, we really focus in on the product, and we talk about, in the real world, you're going to get Yelp reviews and people are going to watch your work, whether you're a lawyer or a doctor or,
Yeah.
waiter. People are going to watch you and then review you. And same thing with sports, everything's product oriented. So I feel like we've tried to really push product oriented things. You're going to have to get up in front of your friends, your parents, and do this. So do the best you can, or
Yeah.
don't do the best whatever, but it's your product and you're responsible at the end. So,
Have
uh,
have there been times, you said you work, how long have you worked with your wife now? Almost what, 10 years almost, it seems like.
12,
Okay.
13,
It's been a
I guess
while.
this would be four, man, man, 13. How many? I know 12,
How
12, 12 1X,
how long have you been married?
13. I, he asked how long have we been married. I think we make a really good couple because I'm not sure Abby could answer it right off the top of her head.
Yeah. That's
Would you
good.
say 14? Abby says 14.
14. Okay.
She says it will be 14.
Let's check this. Let's check the tape. Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. What? So have you two? You were talking about how you and I would cast a show different. And that's true. We could see different things. Everybody's blue is different, as Kevin Rigdon used to say. Have you and your wife ever kind of not come to blows literally, but had been like, I don't know if this person's right for that role, and you're like, no, I swear, trust me. And then one of you is eating crow when you're wrong.
Yes. Come to blows.
And you don't have to name names,
on scripts,
but yeah.
on cuttings, on the set, on every single thing,
Yeah.
everything. Yes.
That's good.
But it's awesome. It works out really well because we both are seeing it differently.
Right.
So I think in the process, we're seeing different things, and it's leads to something better.
Right.
And here at Central, it's been great because we work on a team with two other directors, and both of them are seeing it different than we are as
Right.
well, which is just added bonus because seeing whatever you're doing through someone else's lens, like is going to add to the product at
Right.
in some way, because there's a reason they're seeing it that way.
Yeah.
We had a bus driver one time that she was awesome. She made cookies for the kids every single time we got on the bus. She was number one. She was a part of a team.
Right.
And it was cool getting feedback from her because she wasn't a theater person. So, and didn't read the script. So when she would be like, I didn't understand that.
Right.
I would think, oh, there's probably nobody understanding this unless they've sat there and really read the script and are throwing their own interpretation in. So I think those different eyes are awesome.
That's so funny you say that. Not the cookie part, but when I was a touring designer, the bus drivers, we had two bus drivers, the Mickle brothers, D Mick and D Wayne is what we called them. But anyway, they knew nothing about a cappella or entertainment or the stage or anything like that. And their feedback though was some of the most valuable feedback because they were the people that we were putting the show on for. A small percentage of the audience sure are they're choir singers and a cappella nerds, but the majority of the audience is just a random schmo from that town. And so we would always, whenever we were rehearsing, those guys would come in a day or two early to wherever we were rehearsing and give us feedback and say, this worked, this didn't, and we'd value that. So
that's all. That is, yes.
That's
I
get that.
The way to do it.
And they're from Alabama, and it's like, their opinions are weird. So, but anyway,
I feel like, man, that's so smart because you're right. Sometimes I think One Act even teaches us a little bit to get away from that opinion, and we almost sometimes are like, well, they didn't get it, they're dumb. But it's really the truth is they didn't get it. We didn't do our job.
Yeah. Because you're only doing one act for other theater people because you're really only doing it for adjudicators. I mean, yes, you have an audience sometimes, but you're
and because they've read the script, they can fill in some gaps that the audience can't fill in. So I think it's so important to have those people come by and watch it because we'll just skip right through something and it's just assumed that everybody knows.
Yeah.
They don't.
That's one of those things. I wish I knew more people that weren't theater people, so that I could invite them to come. Because my wife too she's a theater teacher. We don't teach together, but she's a phenomenal, one of the best theater teachers I've ever gotten to know. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but so same with you. Our kids are screwed. Like they're surrounded by theater 24/7.
Yeah.
So it's, it is what it is. You said you have one kid, or how many kids do you have?
I have one. I have a daughter.
You have a daughter. How old is she?
She's 7.
Okay, so I have an 8-year-old daughter.
That's
Yeah.
this. Did they go? Did you say 8-year-old daughter?
Yeah, I have 2 daughters, but one is
Okay.
8. So yeah.
Do they go up to the theater and
The 8-year-old
run as
does.
well?
Yeah, the 8-year-old does. The oldest does. My youngest, not as much. She's going to be the stand-up comedian. My oldest daughter's going to be the she might not be the lead in a musical, but she's going to be she'll be Miss Hannigan. She'll be that
Yes,
that kid.
yeah.
She won't be Annie. She'll be Miss Hannigan.
That's awesome.
So but they can't get away from it.
Yeah.
There's
I do think that's a cool thing about theater is that for whatever reason, it's an environment that you can bring your kids up there, and there's going to be kids that just grab onto them and they become their little mentors or babysitters or whatever, And man, I don't know if it's like this for yours, but my daughter looks up to them like they are heroes.
Yep. 100%. I have video of Ava coming up before like improv shows back when I was at Dulles and just dancing and singing and hanging out. And I'm, the lights are changed. We're just having a good, this is 2 hours before the show, and the kids it's kind of their warm up in a way, babysitting my kids. So, but it's a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's
I agree
awesome.
with you. So I'm very curious about the room you're in. Which I know is horrible for a podcast, but you have a very eclectic looking room. I'm assuming it's a little bit decorated or done up because we have online classes and maybe you were home for a little bit, but
this is stuff that we've accumulated from shows or from we brought with us after college.
Okay.
It's extremely eclectic.
Yeah.
And
it's just fun. It just looks fun.
Stuff have been in shows.
Okay.
And a lot of this stuff is hot glue guns and
yeah, I see that.
Yeah,
that's lower on the screen. Yeah.
It's the workroom.
It's keepsakes. Yeah. Good. That's cool. I tried when we first started this whole process of being online. I tried to do a cool background so that the kids, if they weren't listening to me, at least they were like trying to figure out what I have, on the shelves, and that has since gone away. But that would be fun as a student to kind of sit here and be like, I wonder what that was for. I wonder why does he have that? But yeah, that's
I was checking out your jersey. You got your jersey back there, and your diploma. I guess that's the Houston one. Is that?
No, that's my master's.
Okay.
My Houston one, it took me 7 years to get a bachelor's degree. I'm a lot more proud of my master's. So, you got to pick and choose where you get them. But yeah, I've got monkeys behind me because my mom loved monkeys, so that's my little thing. But it used to be a lot more like figurines and all kinds of stuff. Very very ADD friendly. So. But it is what it is. So I want you to talk about Global Theater Project. This doesn't have to be the end of the conversation, but I do want to make sure we get it in there. And I want you to speak on it a little bit and kind of give the elevator pitch, if you will, on what it is and how it came to be and where it sits now and all that kind of stuff. So give me some of that information.
We have an awesome fine arts director here at Keller, Kim Bland, and her husband Josh teaches theater at a community college near here, and then Abby is a product of she was also a Tau student in Rogers, another whole other. So we have that connection, and I think all of us are very passionate about educational theater. Something that I think they've seen that I've seen is that we don't have a lot of outlets to show off students' success and to show off you know, some of the awesome things teachers are doing. We have one act play, and then we have a lot of the 5As and 6As and some of the bigger 4As will jump in on some of these musical theater competitions, like in Dallas and Austin and Houston. Um, but that's about it. We do have, we have the tech design, but we don't have a lot of outlets like band or like choir, where they, because of TMEA or because of Bands for America, they'll have like 8 or 9 competitions, and they just keep expanding. It's crazy. Aaron, this is coming around, but Aaron Martin, and Designs, he does more business now with bands than he does with theater, way more business, because of the shows that they do, and because of the number of shows that they do. And but I think because of that, they're always on display. Their programs grow bigger, they have more funding, they have more directors, they have more conferences, they have all these things that I think theater needs, and theater teachers, it would make them better, happier, healthier people. But I don't think we're on display enough, and so I think that we need more avenues to show off kids' success. Um, and I think those need to be, long term, like in things like monologue competitions or 10-minute scene, all these different things. But anyway, with this one, we wanted to make sure that we had an outlet, that kids were able to do their show and have an audience. And for us in Fort Worth right now, we have not gotten a show off this year. And the kids have been awesome. They've been great, but our just levels have been very high. Our quarantine levels are high. We have about, I don't know, I don't know the stats exactly, but I'm going to bet we have about 25% of our population that's still online. So we have a pretty big online group too. And none of these kids are getting an audience because of, just the mass number of all these different things. And looking into the future with, March 22nd, 23rd, I can't remember when our district is, but we had to have a meeting where we told our parents, we're not sure that we're actually going to be able to perform.
Right.
If we are missing 5 kids, we're going to do our best, and we've double cast our show and everything, but there's a chance we may not perform or your child may not perform. So you're jumping in this at your own risk.
Right.
And it's not the best recruitment speech, but it's just kind of true. Last year too, telling our cast that, hey, this thing is canceled, was that was a tough conversation.
Yeah.
That we had. So we wanted something where we could guarantee the students were able to show off their work, and we thought this is the best way, because if we have them all there March 27th, we can get a video. If we have them there March 19th and we have the show done, we can get a video. And maybe take the best one of those. But whenever we have all our kids there, finally, we're filming and keeping that thing. And that may be the thing that we turn in for this competition. And we wanted to offer something out there where other people who are in this situation can have an outlet. So one act play, which is right now kind of our only competition, doesn't, kids don't experience 2 years in a row where they can't compete.
Right.
I think it's a great opportunity to, do this along with it. So many times your journey ends way quicker than you wanted it to
Right.
end. And, some of our shows that end fast, those are our best shows.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be on a year where we were competing against other best shows, and those things happen and your journey ends. But, I thought this is also another outlet that, you can extend that journey on a show that we spend so much time on, that, kids want probably to show that show a couple more times because they've invested hard.
Yeah.
The teachers have invested a lot into it. And so I feel like it's for this year and maybe even, moving forward, it's a good complementary competition to one act. I love, one act. I love the things that I feel like I would not have a job if it was not for one act. I don't know, like friends that live in Ohio and California, and there's no theater teaching jobs in those states for the most part.
Yeah.
And I feel like in Texas, we have almost every school has a theater teacher. And I think UIL When I Play is the reason for that. So love it, and would love to have more things complementing that competition where more kids are able to show off what they're doing and teachers are able to show off the great work that they're doing.
Yeah.
I just think so. That's kind of the reasoning behind this competition.
Do you think there is, so with band, the comparison of band and choir and such, it's a numbers game too. There's so
Mhm.
many kids. There's really no limitation to how many kids you can put into a choir.
Mhm.
There's really no limitation on how many kids you can put into a band.
Mhm.
Part of I bet Aaron actually likes some of the bands that are smaller because they're trying to fill from goal line to goal line with something, and if there's not a
Stuff.
kid there,
A
there's a piece
show.
of scenery. So he might be looking for those. But my point is there? Do you think there's a way to uh, sort of rethink how the one act play system works, in that we're very limited, or we're limiting ourselves to how many kids are on stage, and
Mhm.
now because we've said we're only putting 20 kids on stage, that counting the tech, then we're not really allowing for growth of a department, and especially this year
Mhm.
where we're probably going to get a couple of things, a couple of students taken away just because they there's no theater, there's, or
Mhm.
in the traditional sense. So I saw
Man,
you perk up. So
Blake, that is exactly. I could not agree more. And here's the crazy thing is that we do this, we cast this show and limit ourselves on these 20 people right at the same time most kids are signing up for classes
yeah,
next year. So we've like shut our program down for a lot of us. It may be the smallest show we do all year,
yeah,
or maybe the shortest show. Um, we'll shut it down and frustrate tons of
yeah,
students right as they're signing up for new classes, and it's like the worst timing. And not only that, you talked about the tech, with the group. I feel like we're completely alienating or not looking at a whole group of people who have crazy talent who could be developed in theater. um, People who are projection mappers who code
yeah,
with
yeah,
computers, who are um, designers as far as lighting goes, and all those type of sound musicians. We limit those jobs and cut them off
mhm,
instead of like expanding and bringing them in. And I really think computers, we kind of talk about, we do this because of to level the playing field, which I really don't buy into. But I think computers are a leveling, because every kid has an iPhone, or a smartphone, or there's
something.
going to be
Yeah,
somebody, and they
yeah,
know how to edit, they know how to use it. Those phones can be hooked up Bluetooth to projectors, class projectors, to all these different things. I
yeah,
think instead of cutting off technical aspects, we need to just be inclusive and say,
right,
bring it on, bring it on, bring it on, because it's going to educate more. It's good for kids. I think anything that's good for kids, we should be doing. And that's, to me, good for kids. And I think you're right. Like, eliminating that many students is not good for kids.
right,
So I think we should be able to, if there's two directors, I think it'd be awesome if you could do two shows,
right.
things like that. Or if you have a desire to do that really small two-person show that you never get to do, you could do that. And then you could also do this other show that brings in lots and lots of students. I think there's just so many things that we could do to open this up.
Yeah. The technology leveling, I agree with you, and could go on for days about how just because you say you can only use six lights doesn't mean you're making the field equal, because you could,
Nope.
a light is, this 60-watt light that's lighting my face right now is a light, but I
Hmm.
could also bring in a 1,000-watt Fresnel that is
Yep.
going to act
Yes.
completely different.
Yes.
Or, just in the world of LEDs, I can bring in an LED that's going to do everything I want it to do,
Hmm.
and then compared to another school that's, again, bringing in a lamp.
Hmm. And
So
we've even
yeah,
started connecting ours the last few years to where we connect them together and we call it one light.
Yeah. Well,
It's going
you
through. I
know,
have no idea. I
I
don't know how to
shouldn't.
interpret any of this anymore. So I
Yeah.
just, if it'll go through, we'll push it through.
I shouldn't bring this up because I know some people listen that might be a little triggered by what I'm about to say, but we did Peter Wendy a few years ago, and we created. This is completely the other director's idea, or the acting director Melanie, her idea, but she created a clock on stage. But the way
Hmm.
she created it was 11 lamps, and 12 o'clock was what was 12 o'clock? 12 o'clock was like a seat or a window or something. I don't remember, but
Uh-huh.
and so we got all kinds of flack from other directors that saw our show because we made it to area
Uh-huh.
and got a lot of flack about you have 11 lights on stage. It was like, yeah, but they're not lighting the actors. They're part of the scenery.
That's
And
awesome.
only one light really lit Wendy, which was
Uh-huh.
right at the top of the show. She turns on the light, and at the end of the show, she turns off the light.
Uh-huh.
And so we sent it in and asked permission, and we got permission because it was scenery.
Uh-huh.
And so
I
anyway,
love that.
you know,
I would have saw that and have been like, dang, I'm stealing. In fact,
yeah,
writing this down right now.
yeah, right. So
And stealing. That's awesome. I love,
yeah,
and it really does become a little bit of a competition too of how
it's a
well
chess
you
match.
can
Yeah,
word or
yeah,
call something, like almost like we become little attorneys,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we
yeah,
present our case and we
yeah,
defend it and we word it just correctly, and then it passes on, and there's this other, it may not pass here, um, or we think creatively of how to skirt the rule as opposed
oh
to
yeah.
like, let's think creatively of like doing something like just if the rules are not there at all, like
Yeah.
what is possible.
Man,
That
my first year in Fort Bend, again, I shouldn't say this on the record, but I'm going to. My first year in Fort Bend, I got my wrist slapped because I bought paint from Lowe's. And when I went to put down on my little, record sheet of what I bought, I put paint. And I got a call from accounts payable that says they're not our paint vendor. Sherwin-Williams is our paint vendor. Don't ever buy from Lowe's again. So I quickly learned that paint supplies is fine. But if you specifically say, I got about 5 gallons of black paint,
uh,
you're immediately flagged. But paint
we
supplies, yeah, no
we
problem.
got this we got a guy who helps us, we'll rent some projectors from him,
Yeah,
and he does not we don't put him as a projector, he is a sound vendor,
yeah,
because the projector makes a little hum, so
yeah,
that's our sound.
yeah,
uh, because we have another place that's our lighting vendor, and since they've associated the two, we can't use
yeah,
him as a projector, we can use him as sound.
right.
uh, yeah, it's a
Little
game that I
lawyers, I
wish
like
we
that.
would just kind of eliminate and
Yeah.
let people just do their job.
Yeah,
That would be,
I
yeah,
like the little lawyers comment. That's very good because it's true. You have to figure out how to kind of finagle and word things so that it works
yeah,
for you. Yeah, which
yeah,
is
yeah.
which they don't teach that in like if you're getting an education degree in college or a theater degree in college, they don't teach that stuff. They don't tell you
Nope,
that.
and
Yeah,
that it
rightfully
should
so.
be a whole class
Yeah,
as much as it affects a Texas
yeah.
teacher.
Maybe that's a
Uh,
workshop we can teach at
Last year,
TXUTA.
I don't know if I should say this, and I won't even say what they did, but Stewart, when he brings in his stuff
Oh God,
sometimes to
yeah,
clinic, somebody told me what they had done last year,
yeah.
and man, I thought, I don't know how he's gonna get away, but I am excited to see it. It's
Yeah.
gonna be awesome.
Yeah. Stewart will he's the quiet guy. He'll if you say, how'd you get away with doing this or he'll just kind of shrug and you know, he got away
Yeah.
with it. So, hey, but karma comes back to bite him in the ass because he couldn't get those TVs on at State that one year. Whatever he was, I forget, was that Caesar or something
No,
or
it's
whatever that was.
Richard. Yeah,
Richard, yeah,
Yeah. And I
yeah,
remember him hearing he was frustrated and everything, but I was so mesmerized by the show in front. I was
oh
like,
yeah.
God, this
He
show
didn't need
is
yeah,
like just
yeah.
awesome. It's eye candy. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
he didn't need the TVs. That was just Stewart saying first world problem. Uh, I
Yeah.
love Stewart. Yeah. So that's funny. So your wife is musical theater or director? What is she more so?
She's definitely director.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll split, and I think the kids have kind of started saying I'm big vision, and she's details and finesse. She brings it together.
Right.
So I think what they're trying to say is like I give them the script and then Abby directs it.
Right.
But she like I think yeah, she brings a whole different perspective to
Yeah,
the show.
you pull the cow on the trailer, and she's the one that cuts it up into some fillets.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it makes it nice, makes
right.
it worth looking at.
That's good. That's a good team. Was that always kind of the plan, was to work together, or is that just kind of how it happened to be?
It's the way it happened.
Yeah,
We got married, and as you're living at the school almost
yeah,
like a youth minister or a coach or whatever.
yeah.
um and so she we were around each other, and she just started kind of jumping in and saying, what about this, or do this. And she has a really good eye, and she's done it all. She's taught math, and she's taught
Okay,
different core subjects. She's been a counselor. She's now
okay,
part of the admin as a social emotional learning coordinator.
okay.
But we've just kind of just started, finding a rhythm and finding what we do best, and then just going with that. And we'll just kind of from start to finish, we just direct the whole thing together. And now Emery will play around and watch, but used to we just took breaks.
Right.
I would direct, and then I'd go,
Yeah,
hold
make sure the
Emery or
kid is
play with
alive.
Emery,
Yeah,
and then we'd just switch back and forth.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I hear that. So is it cool for the kids to have somebody that's not in the theater, like that they see doing something else, to come in and kind of give their 2 cents and all that?
I do think that. I
Yeah,
think a different voice is. I think they listen to it, and they like hearing that different perspective.
right.
It's just like going to a clinic, and the clinician says something that you said 100 times,
Yeah,
but they say it in a different way, or
yeah,
they say it from you know a different platform, and
right,
for whatever reason that is, the kids grab onto it, and they listen.
right,
And I think Abby will come in, and she'll say things, and the kids will grab onto something that she's saying. And a lot of kids too will have interest in some of the things that she's doing, and will want to pick her brain about that.
yeah,
And so I think she also before now we have a team where we have a lot of different males and females working. But
right,
I do think that when we were at Rogers and Seminole, I think Abby being a woman, I think gave other of our actresses like somebody that they
right,
could talk to and look up to, and that kind of stuff that they probably didn't connect quite as well
right.
with me for whatever reason. But yeah, I think it does
Yeah,
help
good.
a lot.
Yeah. Well, when you say Rogers, are you talking about the Rogers that the Philip Taylor was in?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
right, yeah, Philip, and yeah,
He doesn't shut
Philip.
up about that
Yeah,
place. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they've had a lot of good people.
Yeah.
Philip and
Well, I didn't say anything about Philip being good, but yeah, 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 yeah.
that's right. He was there,
He
right?
was at Fort Bend. Yeah, I love Philip. He's a
Yes.
good friend of mine. Yeah, but
Uh-huh.
I just saw him this past week. He clinicked our show. So, but yeah, he's great. But he again always talks about Rogers. So, yeah, yeah,
It's
that's fun.
crazy. They got a gym that's a theater gym. Like it is
Yeah,
the whole gym is the theater. It's crazy. It's
that's
really cool.
it's unique.
Yes, yes.
For sure.
Especially for a small 3A, 2A
Yeah,
school. Yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty neat.
Well, Josh, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I think are you? I'm assuming you're teaching face to face, or are you
We're
okay?
doing both.
Little
We're
hybrid.
co-synced, so we're
Okay,
face to face, and then we have a camera
I got you.
video classes as well.
Is
So
that I can't I have hybrid classes, but I make my face to face kids sign in. So
hmm
I'm actually sitting at my desk teaching, and
uh-huh.
they're online, but they're sitting. I mean, they're I could throw something at them if I wanted to,
Yeah, uh-huh.
uh, but
Uh,
yeah, has that
that's
been fun for you or not at all?
it's been I don't think I have it down yet.
Yeah,
I'd say that.
yeah,
We're still trying to figure it all out, and so we're all learning together, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
What are you figuring out with like the tech world of things? And I know you have a tech director there, but
hmm
uh, how have you guys like kind of adapted the getting your hands dirty side of tech and just getting the kids to be able to literally just paint or do anything like that. Have you guys been able to figure that out, or have you?
Those are tough,
Yeah,
and we've kind of looked at more like computer and technical and design, that kind of stuff.
yeah, okay,
Um, but also, I think this year has been a year of trying to get things organized
right,
and cleaned, and it's kind of a little bit different process
right,
than normal because we haven't done a whole lot of uh, painting, building, and stuff like we would typically do.
yeah. So, I want to let you go with this. I want to ask you because you have had a lot of one act play success, and I've made my opinion clear online, even though I try not to incite, but apparently I do. It's
I
just
think you get a lot of likes from me, I
I
think
do,
so.
I do. But thank you. There are some fans out there, but I want to know, and maybe this is a selfish personal question, but for those people that are kind of struggling right now, this year specifically, with the
Mhm.
idea of going into contest, and I know some contests have already happened. There've been a few that, especially in the like 3 and 2A schools.
Mhm.
Um, for those people that are struggling with the idea of like, how am I going to make this through? You are very motivated and passionate about the one act play process and have had success and also failures. I mean, beginning of
Oh,
your
yeah.
career.
Mhm.
Um, what do you want to tell somebody that's just kind of like struggling through, having a tough time, trying to figure out is this year even worth it? Why should they keep going?
Mhm. I feel like, for us, we've, totally redefined, like, um, what is our end goal and what's our end process and what do we want in the end, and, I think, for us, it's been just, the fact that we can come together, and we're trying to follow every guideline and we're trying to do it safe and we wear masks and we try to separate and all that kind of stuff, but we are I think it's a gift that we get to see each other, so that's the first thing that we try to say is this relationships are way deeper and going to last way longer than this competition. And so for us, that's been our first thing. And we've done a lot more games and just let's have fun than we have in the past. And honestly, it's probably stuff that we should keep and not let go of that because I think that's the most important thing. And then the things that we learn from for this show, I think it has a message that we're doing has some messages the kids are relating to, and I think that's been a next step is like what are we learning from this process for the show, and then the third thing is like these life skills of like we gotta we have a problem right now, or we have our two leads are gone, they're quarantined, so we have a 2 week gap where they're not going to be here. How do we solve this problem? And we got to come together and do that.
Yeah,
So I think that's kind of been our what makes this worth it is developing relationships and learning to problem solve, and then what are we learning from this show? And then everything else. If we end up getting to show the show, that's icing. If we get to go to a competition, it's icing. All those things are just icing.
Minor